Hi everybody, Miss Elaineous here and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, this is where I take you to see offbeat, quirky and interesting tourist attractions. Today I've been to Scarborough Castle. Now I'm not quite sure that you'd call it offbeat as it stands sentinel high up there on the headland above the town of Scarborough. It's definitely quirky and definitely interesting though. Come and take a walk in my shoes and I'll show you where a barbican has sat since 1175. The castle is now a ruin and come and walk around with me and I'll show you some interesting artefacts in the Master Gunner's house. I will also show you the stunning views over the North Bay and the South Bay. We will also get to see a chapel and a couple of old wells. Remember to give me a like, remember to hit subscribe and click on that notifications bell. I will see you in the video.
Here we are entering Scarborough Castle via the barbican, or outer fortification, and gate. As I mentioned, the first reference to a barbican being on this site occurred in 1175. I have sped you up through most of this video. I will slow you down though for views over the bays. They are quite wonderful. Here we are overlooking the North Bay. Now the castle's coming into view. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the Master Gunner's house. A Master Gunner was an experienced or veteran artilleryman who maintained every aspect of gun equipment. Back over the North Bay. And to the left you can see the Master Gunner's house. To the right of that you can see the cannons. Now heavy cannons were mounted at the castle. The type and number required varied over time. I especially love this little model of the castle. I almost missed it the last time I was here. That was on a drizzly day. This day was better. Some informative boards here and a little shelter to the left. An education room to the right as you enter the Master Gunner's house. And upstairs you will see some Scarborough excavations. We have pottery and some horseshoes. I especially loved the tobacco pipes to the right. And cannonballs. Now this chunky lump is a section of 15th century cross shaft. A cross shaft is a masonry wall that divides the keep in two. This shows Christ flanked by the Virgin Mary and St. John. More pottery and the face jug. The black object just centre right was my favourite piece. Can you make it out? We have an advert for some kind of Halloween event taking place here as we head into the other room. We have more artefacts. And pottery in the corner. And a sword. Venturing out past the cannons, towards the bailey. A bailey is a courtyard surrounding the moat. with a defensive wall. And the castle keep is to our right. Now, the Great Tower was built between 1159 and 1169 by Henry II, who ruled from 1154 till 1189, after he demanded return of a royal castle which had already been established here in the 1130s. He then began developing a town beyond the walls of the castle. Here you can see the entrance to the modern viewing platform, which is set just below the medieval first floor level. There was a basement, first and second floors, and a top story, which was probably filled in by the roof structure. The basement was probably used as a repository for latrine chutes. You can climb up and look through some of the old windows. And here I am, having a gulp down onto the master gunner's house. Scarborough takes its name from Viking raider Thorgils Skarthi, who is alleged to have founded Skarõaborg in 966 AD. Could this be Icelandic folklore? There is no archaeological evidence to support this claim. Looking down into the basement and over the North Bay. I've never actually walked down there. It does seem calmer than the South Bay, which is more about pubs, bars and arcades. Now there is a chimney here. The last time I was here, I walked inside and took a photo up it. Alas, this time I didn't. But do check out my blog. The link is at the bottom of the page. I've put some photographs on there. And there are two Scarborough blogs, one about this castle and a bit about the town as well, and one purely about the town. And here's the beautiful view over to Flamborough. The castle would have split in two during the 1644 Civil War raid, when intense bombardment caused half of the building to collapse. Heading down the modern stairs, and the not quite so modern stairs. Scarborough now has a population of roughly 62,000 people. In the 4th century, before there was a castle, the Romans built a fortified signal station here, this diamond-shaped promontory lending itself perfectly to such a use. Look at it, isn't it magnificent? Once again, the view over the North Bay, and let us head to the well and have a stare down here. I wouldn't want to fall down here, I'll tell you. Now here we are heading up the viewing platform. Aside from the history aspect, the view is the best thing about this castle. Look at that. Over towards Filey. Here you have Scarborough Harbour and its piers. That is the South Bay. Looking over the town. I've slowed these down so that you can get some idea of the panorama here. Yeah, if your lens is wide enough, you can get in the North Bay and the South Bay. I've only just managed it. Having a little nosy into a cranny here. The remains to the left is the King's Hall, which was a public chamber where the whole household ate. Down by the moat. Moat means mound, hill or bank. Now this part was accessible the last time we were here, but it looks like it's flooded now. I think the metal slats merely serve to hold this section under the arch together. I don't think it's a garderobe or anything like that. This headland site has been intermittently occupied for more than 3,000 years. There was once a tower in the far corner called the Cockhill Tower. It was still in use in 1666 when the castle served as a prison, but was severely damaged in the 1730s due to cliff collapse. Now this is King John's chamber block, and I did overhear a guide say that this little nook here was possibly used as a wine cellar. Whilst it was common for grand establishments to have a separate kitchen, hall and chamber block, it's unclear why King John thought to sleep here, as the castle had a great tower at his disposal. The building would originally have been two-storey, with one large and one small room on each level, with a tower providing an extra room opening off each floor. The loft above floor would have been the principal storey and was accessible by separate external stairs. Both rooms were warmed by fires. Documentary evidence shows that by 1538 the building was in decay. This lodging was converted into barracks after 1745, but these were demolished in 1914 after German shelling caused considerable damage. Scarborough Castle also got bombarded during the Second World War as well. The castle was built by successive medieval kings over 2 centuries. It was largely destroyed when parliamentarians besieged it twice during the English Civil War. The curtain wall towers were hollow to allow for the insertion of floors. The curtain wall was built by King John between 1202 and 1212. It's presumed that this replaced an earlier line of defences. It was used for defence against the Jacobites and Napoleon, as well as the Kaiser and Hitler. We're heading down the steps to the Sallyport. This leads to the site of the South Steel Battery, but erosion has made it inaccessible. I had to come and take a look at the graffiti scrawled on the door. The purpose of a Sallyport is to defer and defend unwanted entry or exit. We are now turning around the headland and walking towards the site of the Roman signal station, which was built around 370 AD. The wind was whipping it up somewhat down here. You will see my hair flick in front of the camera lens. Here you can see over to Filey Brigg and Flamborough behind that. It's not very expensive to enter Scarborough Castle. I think I paid £8 per person. It's certainly worth an hour of your time. Another well. St Mary's Chapel dates back to 1000 AD, but it was rebuilt in the 12th century and again in the 14th century. And that more or less concludes our time at Scarborough Castle. Here we are walking back and taking one last look at the castle and the Master Gunner's house. One final look at the vista before we headed back down through the Barbican. Here's the street view of the castle entrance. I love that building high up. I believe it's a guest house, but the reason I'm here next door, in the graveyard of St Mary's Church, is that Anne Bronte is buried here. She lived from 1820 to 1849 and was one of the famous literary sisters. She was the author of Agnes Grey and the tenant of Wildfell Hall. That latter novel of hers is one of my favourites of all time. Her headstone is now almost illegible and contained an error anyway, stating that Anne was 28 when she died, when she was, in fact, 29. The Bronte Society added the flat plaque correcting the error in 2011. Anne visited Scarborough for her health and stayed in lodgings on the spot that is now the Grand Hotel. It was decided that she should be buried here, rather than transported back to her home in Haworth. Here we are heading down the steps towards the seafront. During the Middle Ages, Scarborough Fair, a 6-week trading festival, attracted merchants from all over England and Europe. It was permitted in a royal charter of 1253, but possibly dates as far back as 1155. It was discontinued in 1788, but is still marked every September by local celebrations. At the bottom here is a butter cross, and a butter cross had stood here, marking the place where butter was sold since at least the 14th century, although this is a badly eroded replacement. It's believed to be a reused church pinnacle, possibly taken from one of the friary churches after they were dissolved in 1539, or from the nearby Chapel of the Holy Sepulchre. It's the only surviving market cross, and there were believed to have been at least 5, including a corn cross and a reed cross. And with that interesting piece of historical information, I will leave you.
Thank you for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed the video. Come and see me again soon for another miscellaneous adventure. Remember to give me a like and do subscribe to my channel and click on the notifications bell. You might want to tell me what you think to the video in the comments, or you might want to tell me where you'd like me to go. Until next time, ta-ta for now.